I always knew since I was young, I didn't want to work just like a normal 9 to 5 job. I never really wanted to work for anyone in general.
Where do you see socials going? What platform do you see being the number one platform over the next 10 years from a growth perspective? I'm curious on your opinion.
It's at the end of the day, like your first couple posts are not going to be that great. So I just start, like just period, start.
What does it look like for a client to start to see success from posting on socials? Because we both know that it's exponential.
Right? Like I guarantee you all these people that are listening, they have something, whether it's again, fitness or branding or content or, mindset coaching. There's always some topic that you guys have some kind of fascination about or expertise in that you could take and you can monetize and put it on social media.
If you were to go back and talk to the 18-year-old you with everything you know now, what would be the one thing that you would tell yourself? Welcome back to another episode of the Beyond the Wealth podcast. I'm your host, Andres Sanchez, and today I have Joe McCarthy, CEO and founder of Gem Social. In today's conversation, we're going to deep dive into what is necessary to go and launch a brand, and also talk about the importance for founders listening and aspiring founders. Talk about the importance of actually having a credible brand on social media and how much impact that would make to the top, bottom, and every financial line that you have in your business. It is a must do and something that I don't think enough founders are taking seriously. Today, our goal is to have a conversation around it. And I want everybody listening and that's with us right now to leave this conversation and be able to go and implement what we talked about and launch a brand tomorrow. So Joe, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man.
I want to give you the floor here right at the beginning to give us a quick elevator pitch or intro so people know who Joe McCarthy is.
Yeah. So young entrepreneur, live in Florida currently. I help business owners, brands, entrepreneurs essentially scale up their personal brands, help them find their unique voice, streamline their content creation, and then help them create a brand that actually gets you leads. So I also focus heavily on lead generation, helping you get business, structuring out your offer. So I grew up on a farm when I was young, and I actually used social media to sell like farm products like chickens and eggs and stuff like that. So that's when I originally got kind of introduced to social media. And then fast forward, a few years later, I started just immersing myself in entrepreneurship. I was reading like Napoleon Hill and like Grant Cardone and Robert Kiyosaki and just, all kinds of different entrepreneur books. And I just started posting on Instagram, just building my own personal brand, which now is the @Real Joe McCarthy brand that I have today. But I was struggling to grow my brand, both with followers, engagement. I wasn't really selling a lot of those products. And I see a lot of people struggling with that even today. So I decided to set out on a mission to essentially figure out how all these massive influencers and, big famous entrepreneurs are growing such massive brands. So fast forward, 4 or 5 years and $80,000 spent on brands, ads, mentors, coaches. I've pretty much taken all of what I've learned and all of what I've experienced and packaged it up into like one specific program. And so that's the current program that I have today. But we've worked with over 7,000 clients since 2017. So I've been in the space technically 7-8 years since I was young. And yeah, that's basically what we're doing today, just helping other people grow and scale and make more money through social media.
That's amazing. And I got the chance to scroll through your socials, and there really isn't that many people that have been doing it as long as you have. Like, you are posting. I was going back and looking at videos that you were posting in 2019, 2018. Yeah. Like, video wasn't even that popular. Reels weren't that big of a thing on social media yet, and you were already doing it. What gave you that kind of inclination that, hey, social media is going to be really big? And why were you so interested in posting and creating content on there?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, my stuff didn't even really take off until maybe 2020. And around that time, obviously, we were all in lockdown. So everybody was using their phones and social media. So at that point, I almost didn't have a choice. Like, I was basically I want to run a business. I always knew since I was young, I didn't want to work just like a normal 9 to 5 job. I never really wanted to work for anyone in general, just period. So I knew that I wanted to create something of my own. I wanted to run my own business, make my own hours, And so around that time, I realized that social media is like a huge tool. And I think the very first inclination was probably back on the farm because I had all this product in like the fridge. I had like tons of eggs and tons of like, chicken and meat that I wanted to sell to people. And so I was doing like old school methods, like putting out road signs and just knocking on people's doors and telling people to buy it. And it just wasn't working. Like it just wouldn't, I couldn't sell what I had as a product. But when I got on social media, I just started posting my day-to-day life. I saw other, random farmers doing it, and it seemed like they were selling their products through social media. So I'd say like age 15 or 16 is when I really got the epiphany that like, hey, I can not only grow a following and like get a fan base, but I can also sell on social media. So I think that was probably the initial inclination, but being on lockdown definitely sped that up quite a bit, for my personal brand.
Yeah, it's crazy. And I think we're going to go back and look at that lockdown time as like one
Yeah.
of those generational wealth creation times in life.
Yeah,
Like,
big
I
time.
obviously have this interesting lens into that because my whole business is interviewing people who have made it from a business standpoint. And the amount that I've interviewed that go back to that time and are
Yeah.
like, oh, I did this and it jump started my business. Oh, people were all at home. So it led to this. It's pretty amazing to think
Yeah.
what we'll look back like 30 years down the road and say like this lockdown and made all of these potential and future millionaires.
Yeah, yeah, it's insane because I mean I remember hearing like the average brick and mortar business or like old school founders like they were struggling because like everything was shut down, so it's like they didn't really have a choice. But at the same time, even with me personally, like I never made so much money as I did in like 2020, which is crazy because it was all like internet money, online, like digital, and I feel like all the digital guys, all the coaches online, like that's when they really started to shoot up because they realized like if you can hone in on like people's eyeballs, which everyone is looking at their phone 24/7. So if you can be the one that they're looking at and scrolling through, then you're getting their digital real estate, and that's going to help you make a lot more money through like online products, for instance.
Yeah, I preach it all the time in these episodes. It used to be back in the day where product was like the real shining object. Like if you just had a better product than your competitors, you had a pretty good chance to be successful.
Yeah,
Now it's all about eyeballs.
yeah,
Whoever has distribution will win nine out
yeah,
of 10 times, even if the product is subpar. If
yeah.
you have better distribution, if you have a better vehicle to reach more eyeballs, you will win 9 out of 10 times.
Yeah, I tell people the exact same thing. Like, it's not always the best product that wins; it's the best marketer who can, promote the best. Because, like you said, there's some services out there that are like really, really solid, but the marketing just sucks, and so like they don't make enough money. They don't, sell enough. They don't become who they could potentially become. And then on the flip side, you got all these, gurus that are selling their courses or their products, and it's given us all like a bad name because they have mastered marketing, and so they're able to sell a crap ton of subpar services. So yeah, that's why I think marketing, branding, building an Instagram, building social media is like it's vital, especially these days.
Hey, I wanted to take a quick break from the episode you're currently watching to let you know about our newsletter. We write a newsletter twice a week to a community of over 13,000 CEOs and founders, highlighting the founders that we interview, the brands they're building, and how they're scaling and growing these companies. If you're a founder interested in blowing up your brand in 2025, check out the link below and subscribe to our free newsletter. Now, back to the episode. You obviously began that journey through just posting what you were doing on a day to day. You mentioned that you got to your knowledge and got to where you are through mentors and courses and different things like that. What was really that turning point for you, or what did you invest in that started to really go from like, okay, well, this was a great little business to sell chickens and the different things I had to like, all right, now I'm like making internet money and
Mm.
I'm headed towards much more success.
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I have a partner. His name is Dre Medici, and he's been one of my best buds for like 5, 6 years. So I've been working with him, and I think he was honestly one of my first investments into my brand. Like, this is a little controversial, but I think a lot of people think that you have to grow organically, or you can't invest into ads, you can't invest into growth. Like, people think that like you're a fraud if you invest into your brand, when in reality, like 9 out of 10 entrepreneurs, massive brands, corporations, like they're investing tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars into their brands and into their growth, into getting your eyeballs, getting out to as many people as possible. So these days, social media is a huge pay to play game. Like if you're not investing into yourself, into your branding, your content, your marketing, your page, like it's going to be hard to reach people and to like get ahead of the competition who is investing. So yeah, long story short, I think when I was 16, maybe I invested like $900. Like I didn't even have that money. I had to like take out a short loan and then give it to this stranger basically on the internet. Like I didn't know Dre at the time, but I just could tell like he was super confident in the service and the product. And so back then, I don't know if you know this, but a lot of big names and entrepreneurs, they would invest into like celebrity giveaways or like campaigns where basically like a celeb would shout out like your page or like a group of like 10 to 20 pages for like a chance to win like an iPhone or something. So the downside of that is like they're not really targeted followers. They're not always going to be as active. So that's why you see a lot of random pages that have like 50 to 100,000 followers, but then like zero engagement. What Dre did is he has a much cooler system where he basically uses mass DMs to grow accounts. So like he'll send like your page to thousands of people and like just generates so much attention that you can grow 10, 15, 20,000 followers in the span of a couple months. And so a lot of people, if they were able to invest into their brands, that would be like a great Kickstarter, because I personally spent probably a year or two just trying to post content and it wasn't going anywhere. It wasn't getting any views. I probably grew like 600 followers total over the course of like 1 or 2 years, just trying to like provide as much value, and just wasn't working. So when I invested with Dre, which was like my first investment, I think that was the catalyst that I saw like, okay, there's ways that you can kind of kickstart and build some momentum, because after that, it was way easier to get more views. It was way easier to grow my following to where it is now, it's at like 400K. But I needed some kind of little kickstart to like, get the thing rolling and get some credibility, because that's the other thing is with social media, it's really visual. So if they see that you have 20,000 followers versus a couple hundred, it's like this is night and day difference. Like they just take you seriously, they see you as an authority. So by me investing with Dre, not only was that a Kickstarter for my brand and my growth, but I also started partnering with him where, I basically became like his number one sales guy for like back to back to back to back. And so I still work with him, till this day and refer him business, but like he was a big catalyst to like teaching me the ropes of, branding, sales. Like I was closing deals in the school bathroom for Dre, just with these girl services, like at school, because like phones weren't allowed. So like, I think that was when it really started to ramp up.
That's amazing. And Dre is a good friend of the pod and a really, really great guy. I had a
That's
chance to
awesome.
interview him maybe like 2 months ago. So I love hearing that. And I
Yeah.
feel the same. Like Dre's a really, really great guy. Um, but I like that you highlighted that you've got to kind of kickstart it. Everybody thinks that your favorite guru or your favorite celebrity's audience is all organic.
Yeah.
Sorry to tell you, it's just not true. It's just not true. Some of it might be, most of it might be, all of it is not, and that's
Yeah.
just the cold hard reality. So I want to kind of talk through it because again, we talked off camera. Like the majority of the people listening to this right now that are here with us are founders, aspiring founders, entrepreneurs, and we've obviously talked back and forward about how important it is for them to have a brand. I
Yeah.
don't know what the number is. There was a study that just came out that people are like 9 out of 10 more likely to buy with
Yeah.
a brand where the founder or CEO has a social media, has a brand. So I want to kind of walk through what it would be like for somebody who has no branding but has a successful business. What
Mhm.
advice would you give that person? How would they go from 0 to 100 on, I don't have anything on any social media, to, wow, like I have a credible social media brand that now adds value to my current business?
Yeah, I've seen a lot of random people these days like get on social media, a lot of older like founders and entrepreneurs, and I think they're finally starting to get the drift that it's important. I think also just not to get political, but with this past election, I mean, I think Trump getting on all those podcasts was massive. Love him or hate him, Elon Musk starting to build his brand, Mark Zuckerberg's building his brand. So like all of these massive, tech entrepreneurs and billionaires, like, they're starting to take notice that, like, hey, it's actually beneficial to have a fan base and a brand. So if you're just getting started, like you've never really stepped foot in like the digital arena of like building a social media page, I would pick one platform and stick on that platform until you see massive success there. So I'm biased because Instagram has always been good to me. I've always seen massive results there. I'm a little bit on the other platforms, but I've just like honed my focus in on just Instagram until I just dominated on Instagram. So if you ask me, I'd probably start just creating an Instagram page and start to post content consistently. Now you can repurpose that content on TikTok and Facebook and LinkedIn just to be there. But again, put all your focus into Instagram, for instance. I would also try to do some deep work and figure out, like, first of all, why do you want to create a brand? Like, if you're just watching this podcast and we're saying go build a brand and you go build it, like there's really no reason why you're building it, just aside from like us telling you to. And that's not going to keep you consistent. That's not going to make you, post on those hard days where it's like you're super busy, you don't have time to put out content. So if you want to actually crush it on social media, you want to be hella consistent with like posting content, building a page, then you need to get a concrete, crystal clear why. Like you need to figure out, why do you want to build this? What's the outcome? What is the ideal outcome that you want for both your brand and your business, and even for yourself, like just lifestyle wise, because you don't want this to be something where you have to do it. You want it to be something where you get to do it, right? So I think just having that mindset of figuring out why do you want to create it. I would also look into why, like, who do you want to help? What kind of content do you want to post? Like I see so many people, they'll watch a podcast that says, go build a brand, start Instagram, post content, and then they go do it. But it's like they haven't done the deep work. They haven't built that foundation to figure out, like, who's my ideal client? What do they need help with? What are their pain points? What kind of content do I want to post? What do I believe in? What do I stand for? Like if you don't have those basic things answered in your mind, crystal clear, then you're just going to post like generic content. And I get on my clients' cases all the time when they regurgitate other people's content, because that was me for so long. I would just see like Grant Cardone or Adam Milet post a piece of content. I was like, oh, that's super cool. And I would take that post that I kind of vibe with and I would just put it on my social media. But it's like no actual thought really went into that. Like I didn't have any kind of like thinking going on in my mind that created something unique. It was kind of just like something that I saw and reposted. So you really need to figure out like how to find your own unique voice. And the way to do that is get crystal clear on your views, your beliefs, what do you stand for? And then also like what kind of content do you want to create? Like what do you want to be an authority in when it comes to posting on social media?
And obviously the psychological aspect, like you mentioned, is understanding why you want to do it, what you're trying to do with it, who you're trying to serve, all of that. What does it actually look like to execute on that? Because most people think that it is easy to make content. Most people think, oh, I can go ahead and spin up content tomorrow.
Yeah.
As somebody who's in the space, that's just so not true. And somebody like yourself who's way in the space, for a fact that's not true. So what does it actually look like for one of these founders to go and do this? Like what type of outputs do they need to be doing?
So it's, at the end of the day, like your first couple posts are not going to be that great. So I just start, like just period, start posting content. I would probably do maybe 3 reels per week, because reels typically get a little bit more interaction than, just photo posts or carousels. Like you can do that stuff down the line once you start to build a fan base. But if I was just starting out, obviously you want to create the Instagram page, profile picture, make sure it looks high quality, it's professional, it's eye catching, it's close up, like it's a headshot. Make sure that your username, if you go to like, our username, just like at Real Joe McCarthy. And the only reason I didn't do Joe McCarthy is because it was already taken, and the guy was like it was like a dead page. So it was impossible to get. I even tried to get it. Well, that's a long story, but Real Joe McCarthy was kind of like the second best thing. And I honestly like it now because it kind of is a brand, at Real Joe McCarthy. But yeah, you just want to make sure your username is high quality. Like try to get your first and last name. If you can't do that, put like the word real or official or the Joe McCarthy or official Joe McCarthy as an example. Bio, you want to do the first line. First you want to put your name, and then I would do a dash entrepreneur or dash, like mention what you do, because, believe it or not, that name right below your profile picture is 100% searchable. So if someone was to type in like fitness coach, and in your bio or in your page you had Joe McCarthy dash fitness coach or men's fitness coach, that would be at the top of the search bar. So put in information right below where it says your name, and then in the bio, I would do basically who you help and what you do. That would be the first line. Second line can just be some credibility, like, worked with over 500 clients. Next line would be a call to action. It'd be like, DM me the word grow to learn more, DM me the word fit to learn more if they were like in the fitness space. And then obviously add like your website right below that. Highlights is something that a lot of people are skipping for some reason these days, but I think they're super beneficial. Like if you go to my page, you'll see I have highlights of results, my program, lifestyle. So I probably get a batch of 4 or 5 highlights. And the way you create a highlight, if you're like very novice, you post on your story, and then any like things on your story, you can basically create a highlight out of that. So let's say you post a ton of stories on your page of travel or lifestyle, take all that, put it into highlight, because that way people can see like, okay, this person's crushing it. They see behind the scenes, get to know them better as a person. So it just builds a deeper connection. Just like going back to like the Elon Musk thing. The reason his companies are skyrocketing is because people kind of connect his companies with him as like a personal brand. So just being more authentic, genuine, I'd create like a travel or lifestyle highlight, create one about your program real quick, maybe create like another just with tips or information, just giving some free value right off the bat. And then, with the content, try to post 2 to 3 times per week. It's not going to be perfect. I'll just get that repetition in. You said you scrolled back on my content, like, you can see the progression. Like you can literally see the quality progression, the editing progression, meet my confidence progression, right? Like I can speak way better on camera now versus in 2019 or 18. Like I would do like 20 retakes for like one video. It'd take me an hour to film. Now I can actually spit out like a video within 2 or 3 minutes, and then I actually edit on CapCut. Like I've gotten better with just doing my own editing, and it takes 20, 30 minutes. I can probably do it a little bit quicker if it's not as good quality, but I mean, you could even just forward that to an editor, and it does definitely get easier. But in the beginning, I'd say the first year of you creating content and building a brand, it will definitely be hard and it will be time consuming, but it will 100% pay off if you do it correctly and if you stay consistent.
And what can a founder, because there's got to be people listening now that are still skeptical and saying like, all right, like sounds like a lot of work, sounds like kind of important, but what do I get by doing it? What does it look like? You've obviously worked with tons of clients. What does it look like for a client to start to see success from posting on socials? Because we both know that it's exponential, and I've seen and talked to tons of people who have crushed it. But the person listening right now that's skeptical, what could you say to convince them from like a client result perspective?
I mean, it really depends on what niche you're in. I guarantee you like 99% of niches and businesses would benefit by having a social media. And I don't mean just like having a company page where you got the logo and some generic content. I mean like, you as a founder, as a CEO of a personal brand, like all these massive founders, you can look at trends, you can look at what's going on, and you can see like, okay, these massive tech founders, like I think I actually just listened to an interview with someone who was talking to Elon Musk, and he was saying that like for years he thought that like, I don't need a social media, I don't need Twitter, I don't need an Instagram, because like I'm already doing really good in business. It's like that's just gonna take up more time. But again, like the proof is in the pudding. You can see that every area of his life and his business has gone up as a result of him putting out content and creating a brand. I think also, if you want to get like deep, is like legacy, like, maybe you have a family and you want to like take all this information. Like most people that are founders, they didn't get there because it was luck. They got there because they were smart, they were strategic. Like you guys all have a plethora of knowledge in your brain. And if you don't want to put that on social media to help more people, then in my opinion, it's selfish, right? Like I guarantee you all these people that are listening, they have something, whether it's again fitness or branding or content or mindset coaching. There's always some topic that you guys have some kind of fascination about or expertise in that you could take and you can monetize and put it on social media. I think it also just helps with opportunities, right? Like it's a massive networking pool. It's like, with you connected with a ton of people, over 2020 up until now. And it's like you only were able to do that because you were on social media and you have a brand, you have a presence. So you're able to reach out to people and get people on podcasts. You can interview them. So, no matter what business you're in, it's always going to help to have that like resume on Instagram, that business card on Instagram that you can go to and use to your advantage to go network with other people, meet bigger, potential businesses. Maybe one day you want to exit your business, and you never know. You can meet that guy on social media who wants to buy your business for 8-9 figures, right? So I think it just opens up a lot of opportunities. There's really no downside, so it's like, why not? That's what I always say. It's like, social media is here, it's free, yes, it takes some time, but it's like, at the end of the day, if it's free and you're getting a ton of value from it, there's almost like no downside. It's like, why wouldn't you do it?
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree with you more on the fact that it's an absolute no-brainer and it's so obvious. But again, it is what it is. Some people don't see it that way. Some people feel like they're busy and their business is already doing all right. And
Yeah,
I've made you provide all of this free value for everybody listening, but I want to give you also the opportunity to plug yourself.
yeah,
For the CEO founder that's listening to this right now and is like, well, I don't want to do this all on my own. I've got a $50,000 a month business right now. I'm willing to invest a couple thousand into outsourcing all of this. What does that look like?
yeah. I mean, I've outsourced, my content creation, thumbnails, DM outreach. Like, most of my business is already outsourced, so I don't have to spend a ton of time doing stuff. Like, I do a lot of management tasks now, but like, if you're a founder or CEO, like, you can delegate a ton of stuff. Like, really all you have to do is just be like the talking head there, giving value, creating that content. And you can pay video editors, you can pay people to actually manage your page and post, you can pay people to respond to comments like I do, you can pay people to respond to DMs or even send out new DMs, to get business. Like, if there's any aspect of your business that could benefit from online, like let's say you have some kind of product that you sell, if there's a way that you can ship it, even if it's just nationwide, like let's say you're in the US and you want to ship nationwide and you're able to, having a social media presence, being able to sell on there, it's a no-brainer. You can DM people, get more traction, get more eyeballs. But yeah, I mean, I would say to start out, you probably want to delegate probably video editing, because it takes a lot of time to actually like get good at that. And in my opinion, you do need to have some kind of quality of content in order to get more views, get more engagement, and get more reach. So that's probably the first thing I would do. I would also probably start delegating more like the outreach. Like, if you're really like ROI focused and you want to make money, then I 100% recommend doing DM outreach. Like, I've been doing DM outreach for probably 6-7 years. Like, that's how I started making money on Instagram, is just reaching out to people, cold DMs. So you can delegate that to assistants, and it's not that expensive, and they can send 40-50 DMs every single day for you. Just plant those seeds, whether it's wanting to get new investors, selling a product, booking calls, driving people to a restaurant. Like, Dre he actually owns a restaurant, Luna Pasta, in Miami, and they had to open like another location because they focused so heavily on Instagram, and they drove so many people by like giving discounts and stuff, saying like, hey, here's a coupon, just want to reach out, saw you're in the area, here's 10% off at Luna for this week. And they get so much business just through their Instagram, just with organic outreach. So if you think like, I'm a restaurant, I'm a brick and mortar business, I can't use social media, I don't have a digital product, we have proven that like literally any industry, you can use social media for your benefit and to help more people, to get more clients, make more money. But that's probably how I would start. And again, at the end of the day, like, you can delegate all of that stuff, but if you don't actually start and like get something rolling, if you don't start and post content on your own and make it a priority, like, I'm big into priorities. Like, if you don't make building a brand and posting content at least like one of your top 3 priorities for the week, like, it's probably not going to get done, whether you delegate things or not. Because at the end of the day, like, you're the one that has to call the shots, create the content, sit there and film. So if you're not willing to do that, then just forget about all the stuff I just said. But if you do want to see the fruits of your labor really pay off, and you want to see yourself build a massive brand, then again, you just need to make it a priority and sit down and just get things rolling.
One, shout out Luna Pasta Bar. I love that place. Or Pasta Dolce, whatever the second half is. I love that place. I actually ate there last Thursday.
Dude, it's so good.
Before I even knew Dre, I was already a super fan. Like I ate at the original tiny location.
Yeah.
So I think that was a full circle moment for me. It was pretty funny. But I want, obviously, like, that was a kind of a description of what you would do to delegate, and like I think it's super accurate for me as a founder, like that's in a content-based business. I don't do things that I don't like because I won't do it.
Yeah.
Like I'm not interested in editing. I never was. I don't think I ever will be. It would be a reason for me to stop posting if I had to do it on my own. So I delegate that. And I think that's really important. I want to also cater to the founders that are in a position where they can get a done for you type service, which is like, I would assume, which is like working with you.
Yeah, exactly.
So like for a founder that's maybe one, is it even feasible for a founder that has no socials to go and work with you right off the bat? And is that normal? If that is, or a founder that's trying to find their way, what would it look like for them to engage you, and what can they expect from that type of service?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I actually have two facets of what I do. So I have one program where it's more like coaching, consulting. So I would show you like, hey, here's how we figure out, who your client is. How do we talk to them in a way that, actually produces results? How do we like find this messaging that really speaks to the heart of your client? And how do we put that in your content? So that's like one side of what I do. The other side is more like what Dre does with Grow This Agency, where it's like 100% done for you. We can literally like go to your place. We have, videographers. We can film all your content. We have editors. We can chop up the content for you. We have teams that can literally post it for you. We can schedule it for you. And obviously we have services that will actually grow your following, grow your engagement, and get you out to more people. So theoretically, like we could do something where we'll schedule like a day where we sit down for like 3 to 5 hours and just like film a ton of content. We'll create the scripts for you. You just give us some basic information on like what kind of content, what pillars do you want to speak on, and then we'll create the scripts. We'll obviously like help you film it and chop it up and post it. So I mean, we can get it to the point where like you basically don't have to do anything. You spend maybe 3 hours a month, right, like filming content, and we do the rest. We take care of all the rest. So if you want to go down that route, I mean, you can invest with me. You can DM me on Instagram, and I'll hook you up with like specific services. Like Dre is super awesome because he has a plethora of different services with the digital marketing. Like it's basically the Amazon of the digital world. So like if you have some specific thing you want to get done, I guarantee you we can do it. And then once we do start producing this content and we're like actually starting to build some traction with the following, then it would make sense to dive more into like the consulting and coaching. Like okay, now that we've built this foundation, like where do we actually want to take this? Like how can we create some kind of structure or offer? Like that's one thing I'm really good at, is actually structuring offers for people. Because like I might work with like, let's say a 50-year-old real estate guy who like invests into real estate, and it's like, yeah, you can go out and invest into real estate and make money that way, and then maybe provide some value on Instagram. But it's like, how do we monetize that? You could do the Grant Cardone route, and you can start coaching people, like giving people mentorships, writing books, writing, like you can do seminars, webinars. Like there's so many different opportunities to take your knowledge and monetize it and package it up in a way that you can make more money. So that's kind of where this side of like the consulting, the coaching business comes, where I'll actually teach you like how to create and structure an offer and how to actually go out and get leads for that consistently.
Awesome. And I did want to highlight that because I'm sure a lot of our audience is that person or people in that boat where they're like, well, I don't want to do shit. Like I want to have this be as turnkey as possible. So I wanted to make sure that we highlighted that.
Yeah, we can do it.
I want to get your opinion on the next 10 years of social. And this is all tin hat, very hypothetical. Where do you see socials going? What platform do you see being the number one platform over the next 10 years from a growth perspective? I'm curious on your opinion.
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, originally when people would ask me that a few years ago, like there was all this like metaverse talk and like, the stuff that Zuckerberg was coming out with. I honestly haven't seen a lot of that lately. So I don't know if that's died out or like it's not really as popular now. I definitely think social media as a concept, like it'll be around for probably multiple decades, if I'm being honest. I think it'll shift a little bit. I think with the upcoming like AI stuff that's coming out, it's going to get super competitive. Like, with all these different business models, like people are going to start creating like AI pages to do all kinds of different things, and it's going to get really, really competitive. Content, if you've noticed, like it's gotten a little bit easier to create and edit. Like if you wanted to create like a video on YouTube for like 15, 20 minutes, and it's basically like movie, like cinema style content. Back then, it would have taken a year or two to make, and it probably would have taken tens of thousands of dollars. Now you can do it on like an iPhone and some editing apps. So again, content is getting super competitive. I think just in general, business is getting competitive. Ads are costing a lot more. Hopefully, like with the new economy, things will be a little bit cheaper. We'll see. But I think Instagram, again, I put all my eggs in that basket with Instagram just because I've always seen massive results there. So until Instagram, like, dies out, which I don't think it will anytime soon, I would put my eggs in Meta, like Instagram specifically.
Okay, yeah. I agree. I mean, Instagram is king just because it has that recognition. For me
Yeah.
personally, I'm going more on the YouTube front because I just
YouTube,
think
yeah.
from a
Yeah.
monetization standpoint, like long form on YouTube is very attractive over a long period of time.
Yeah.
Um, but I think it's important that I also think it's important, and I'd love to talk a little bit about like identifying what social media caters to your brand because all of
Mhm.
these socials have different audiences, different expectations from viewers.
Mhm.
Is it safe to say that some people's brands fit better on X, Twitter? Some people's brands fit better for TikTok
Mhm.
or for IG, whatever it is. Is that a fair thing to say?
Yeah, 100%. Like I've noticed that TikTok, I mean, obviously it's a little bit younger of an audience. So a lot of times they won't be the type to buy like a $2,000 coaching program or like real estate. They're more like they want to buy a small product for like $5 or $10 or $20. So like TikTok Shop is crushing it. So like if you want to go down that route where you're selling like a smaller or cheaper product that you can ship out like on a mass scale, I would say TikTok is a good platform. I think YouTube is, again, it's more like long form. So I actually agree with you with YouTube as well. Like I think it's a much longer play, overall, because it takes forever to grow like a massive audience on YouTube, but it's always going to be there. And it's also one of the only platforms that will actually be like searchable in Google. Like you can type something in Google and you'll see YouTube videos right there. I think Instagram, again, the reason I love Instagram is I feel like it's just a pool of all of that. Like you got some people who are like, boomers on Facebook. Now they're going to Instagram. You got the young audience still on TikTok, but they also still use Instagram. You got like the middle age. Even like I've started getting some pretty high caliber leads from Instagram. So like if you think that 7, 8, even 9-figure business owners aren't like on Instagram, they are, and they're active. So like I think a lot more people are migrating towards Instagram because it's honestly like just a pool of everyone. I think LinkedIn, like if you're looking to like sell your business, or maybe you're more B2B versus B2C, I think LinkedIn naturally is a lot more corporate and it's a lot more professional. So if you're not looking to grow like a massive audience necessarily, LinkedIn is great for that type of scenario. But yeah, Instagram is a platform where like you got everybody, and it's also easy-ish to grow if you know what you're doing. So you can, get popular, get out to more people, and also make a ton of money while you're at it.
And if you had to distill it down into three main areas to focus on for growth, or three main quote unquote growth hacks without giving away too much sauce, what would you say those three things are that any founder should be focused on?
I would say number one is consistency. Like you can post, the best content in the world, but if you only do it for like 2 months and then you take like a month off because you got burnt out, then you're not going to grow. So number one is always consistency. That's why I've seen such massive results, because like you said in the beginning, like I've been posting since like 2018, 2017, and like I've been consistent with that. Like I think I probably spent the last 5 years, I've always posted at least like once per week, like every single week for the past 5 years. Like I've never missed. So like that's the reason why I'm growing, because I've been so consistent and I don't take like a month or two off. Because I feel like if you think about like an eye drop, like I got this analogy from one of my buddies, and it's best when you actually have like the thing here. But let's say you have a cup and you're just dripping tiny eye drops in it, and it's like you don't actually see the cup filling, because most people, what they think is You got like the cup, you got a big pitcher, and you pour a ton of water in it. That's how they think about like them taking action. They think as soon as they take action, as soon as they start, producing content, naturally it's just going to blow up. They're going to get tons of business and tons of views. And that's just not how it is. Like typically it's like an eye drop where it's just drip, drip, drip. And you're doing the action, you're posting content, but it doesn't look like it's actually growing, right? And so naturally people get frustrated because it's like it's barely growing. So it almost looks like you're putting all this effort in and it's not growing. So they just dump it out and they start over. So if like you're posting content for 3 months and you're putting in the effort, you're putting in the reps, but it's not really growing to the scale you think it is, if you give up, like the worst thing you can do is just like stop posting and taking a break for even just a few weeks, because then you're almost back at square one. So it's like consistency is number one. Number two, I would say, is the actual content itself. So making sure that you're really honing in on like the quality, the value, making sure that it's true to you. Like you're not regurgitating other content. You're not trying to be some other guru or influencer. I'd say that's number two. And then number three, if you're in the business, world, is really figuring out and like mastering lead gen and monetization. Because, if you want to make money, if you want this to be an ROI focused endeavor, you need to know how to actually monetize the brand that you've built and spent years posting and creating. So I'd say those are like the main three.
And from a monetization standpoint, what advice can you give on like honing in on that?
Yeah.
Because obviously that's the most important part. We we want to make money.
Yep. So number one, figure out who your target audience is. If you're selling to everybody, you're basically selling to nobody. And there are services out there that can, cater to everybody. But even in fitness, like fitness is a massive clientele of mine. And they start out by like, servicing like men, they service women, people that are 20, 40, 60, people that have jobs, people that are stay at home. It's like, there's really no specific niche that you're working with. So it almost seems like there's just nothing special about it. So like what I would do is you don't need to niche down like a ton. Like even Dre doesn't niche down a ton. I think that's one of his biggest points is like I don't niche down just, for the heck of it. I want to help everybody and service everybody. But in most businesses, it does help to niche a little bit and figure out who is my target market, who do I love working with the most, who do I help the most, and then figuring out like what are their pain points, like what do they need help with specifically, and then putting that and catering that in their content and in their products. So I would say that's the main thing with lead gen, is figuring out who your target is. And then once you have that, then it would just be starting to do the lead gen. So like, again, DM outreach is easy because it's free. It takes a little bit of time, but again, you can delegate that. But DM outreach, if you do it correctly, if you have the right scripts, which, I even have free trainings out there that you can, dig around and find. And I give you the exact scripts that I use personally still. So you can find scripts, you can find the targets, and just start DMing people on autopilot every single day. That's probably the easiest way to do it. If you have money and you're able to put in, a couple thousand per month, let's say, then I think running ads is also a really good endeavor, because there's only so many people that you can close and reach through organic outreach, right? But with ads, it's like if you get like a winning ad, like you find copy that really works and speaks to the audience in the right way, you can run with that ad for months and months, and you can make a ton of money, book a ton of calls. So I would start out with outreach because you want to have your organic system in place, and then I would look into doing like paid ads and stuff like that. But again, if you don't have your targets on point, if you don't have the scripting on point, if you don't have the copy on point, like you could run ads, but if the copy is just garbage and like it doesn't hit the heart of, again, what your audience needs help with and what you can do for them, it's not going to actually convert them to DM you or book a call with you. So that's the main thing I would focus on.
Dude, thank you so much for one being an open book here. Like I
Yeah.
think that anybody who's still with us right now and has been with us for this episode is getting a ton of free value. Like it's like I really do appreciate that, because my goal here with this audience is to give them all of the free tools and all of the free game that they need to go and launch a business and be successful. I know we're coming to the end of our conversation here. I want to end it with the question I ask all my guests at the end of every episode. And it's funny, you're on the younger side, so there's not that much time here. But if you were to go back and talk to the 18-year-old you with everything you know now, what would be the one thing that you would tell yourself?
I'd probably just say, like, quit caring so much about other people's opinions. Like, I think that's another huge hurdle that people need to get over is they think that if you post on social media, your family's going to think you look silly, or, your coworkers are going to make fun of you, or whatever it is, right? Like, there's always this thing in the back of your mind that might hinder you from wanting to even start this in the first place. And it always comes down to opinions of others or judgment. So if I had to go back, because it took me probably 6 or 7 months for me to actually put out my first video. Like, I was even talking to my girlfriend, who's now my wife now, but I was talking to her like, I want to post videos, but I'm not confident on camera. What are people going to think? People in my high school are going to make fun of me. So I was just like deathly afraid of other people's opinions. But I realized, like, if your purpose and your vision is big enough, like, it's going to pale in comparison to other people's judgment. And I also heard something from Alex Ramosi, which really opened up my eyes, which is a lot of times that the opinions of others, or, are they going to judge me? We don't really specify who they is, because most people are, self-centered. They're not actually thinking about you 24/7. So we automatically think that there's like a world of people who are going to judge us, or who we're scared of their opinion, when in general, it's usually like a handful of people. It's like one or two people, whether it's like a parent or a friend, or an uncle or aunt, or maybe like some kid at school. It's like you really only have like two or three people who actually care about their opinions. So I would say, like, just stop caring about other people's opinions. Whether you're fit or fat, people are going to judge you. Whether you're successful or broke, people are going to judge you. Like, no matter what, people are going to judge you. So you can't control the uncontrollable. You only get one life. You might as well do what you're meant to do. Do what you love to do. Fulfill your purpose, and just don't take other people's judgment so seriously.
I love it. I want to give you this moment here at the end to plug yourself. All of your links and everything will be in the description below. But for the people listening audio, where can they find you? Where can they connect with you? I want to make sure anybody listening that's inspired or interested and wants to inquire can go and find you somewhere.
Yeah, for sure. So at Real Joe McCarthy, I'm easy to find. That's my handle for every single social media. I'm the most active on Instagram. So if you want to check out like the most recent content, feel free to go to my Instagram at Real Joe McCarthy. My website is gensocial.com. So if you want to learn more about my actual coaching program, my product, I just launched it, 3 or 4 months ago, and it's crushing for clients right now. So if you want to like really dive in and just get everything that I've possibly, learned and experienced into one package, feel free to check that out. But yeah, overall, like, at the end of each podcast, I always tell people to take action, because at the end of the day, like, if you don't take what you're listening from this past, 45 minutes of just pure information, like, nothing's going to happen. So if you can take what you learn here, implement it, take action, that's going to do us justice. And it's also just going to help you help more people and make more money.
I couldn't agree with you more. Stop watching us now and go take action. Go do it. Dude, thank you so much for coming on the show. It has been an absolute pleasure. Keep crushing it. Keep helping these brands. I think you're doing the Lord's work when it comes to
Appreciate it,
social
man.
media. And again, thank you so much for sharing all of this knowledge with our founders and our entrepreneurs in our community.
Yeah, of course, man. Appreciate you having me on, man.